Hello, welcome to the Inner Voices podcast. My name is the Diva. This is episode where we're focusing on me, the Diva. So, cheers to that. Got a couple of questions here from patrons of Kara Morgan for me. I'm not surprised by that. So I'm just going to basically be addressing them, answering them here, and then we'll be done. Okay, so just in case you're listening and wondering how this is going to flow. But a little way of introducing myself. I'm the Diva. I sing. I'm a singer. That's my primary gift and calling. And people demand what they demand of me is the singing. I'm internationally available. I'm available to perform in all of the major continents. Well, all of the continents, really. I'm available to go to. Especially if you're gonna put me up, send me there, and I do request that you book the airplane and you book the hotel, and would love there to be some fizzy waters of varying flavors, peanut M&Ms, and then a room service that I can call on at my leisure. Now, if that's not in your budget, that's okay. Ideally, it would be in your budget. But the main thing that I'm trying to get across here is that I am available internationally to any of the continents. We're talking North America. That's the easiest because that's where I happen to be right now. South America, available for it. Australia, absolutely available for it. Never been, believe it or not. And I know that's going to be difficult for a lot of you to believe, but I have never been. Uh, but I'm available to go there. Asia, also never been to that one. Again, you're probably sitting in your houses right now thinking, what? How has she not been brought over there to Australia? And I don't know either. I sit here in my house thinking, what? But if you're in Australia and you're listening to this, I am available to come there. Oh wait, we're back on it. We're on Asia. If you're in your home in Asia and you're thinking of about what I'm saying right now, I'm available to come to Asia. What else we got? We got Africa. I have never been to Africa. This is going to be very hard for all of you to believe, but I've never been, and I'm very much available to come to Africa. Any one of the countries in there, I'd love to come. I'd love to sing. Okay. Yep. The same thing goes for Africa. Sign me up. I'm available. Send me over. Then that's Antarctica. Available. I have some warm clothes. You don't have to throw that in. If you had some to throw in, that'd be great. I wouldn't turn that down. Would love to get the transportation covered down there because I don't even know how you get there otherwise. Okay, but I'm available for Antarctica. And then I think I might have named them all, and if I didn't, it's probably because I've been there many, many times. All right, now having got that introduction out of the way, I'd like at this time to turn to the questions that have been asked of me. Let me just get that in front of me here, folks. Okay, this question is from Kathy Morgan. And Kathy asks, just wondering where you got that supreme confidence. Great question. I'm happy to hear that you understand that I'm confident. I am. I'm very confident in my abilities. It's it's kind of like asking a fish where did it get its scales? Because it got them when it was born with the scales, I think. I think they come out as eggs and hatch, but I'm pretty sure that when they hatch, they've got scales on them. So they just have them. And I think that's the same for me. I was born with this confidence. And I think that's because the fish have the scales. I think I have the talent. I was born and I had the talent, and I'm confident about that. It's just kind of a kind of a no-brainer. For example, Kathy, I'm going to give you an anecdotal piece of evidence of this. Now, I don't remember this, but I am told by my mother that my very first sentence was a song. Okay, I don't know how many babies can tell you that that's how it was for them, but that is how it was for me. My very first sentence went a little something like this. Frosty the Snowman. I didn't know all the words, but I knew the first couple of words. I knew Frosty the Snowman. And by the way, I was under 2 years old. at this point, okay? Or maybe just over 2 years old. I might have even been over 1 year old. I'm gonna have to ask, my mother and get back to you about that, Kathy. But all we know is that it was extremely young, younger, um, than probably any child ever was, baby, really, when they sang that song. And again, it was my first complete sentence. Um, yeah, yeah, a complete sentence as a song. Okay. So I think when you kind of come out that way and when your first sentence pops out as a song, you just kind of know you have it and you walk through life knowing you have it. And that changes everything. So thank you for that question, Kathy Morgan. And I believe that is the answer to it. Okay. This question is from Linda Bradbeer. Dearest Diva, what was the fancy song that lured you away from downtown? I'm so pleased that Mrs. Worley was able to help you get back on your musical journey. Yes, Linda probably saw that I recently got together with my vocal teacher, my mentor, if you will, primary professor. I've studied with a large amount of teachers. Really have worked with a lot of people. Mrs. Worley was the most impactful, most influential. She's the one that tipped me over the brink into the internationally available category in which I currently am. But well, first of all, Linda, let's be clear. I was lured away to fancy songs, but that was only because I had mastered downtown. Okay, I had mastered it and was then available to do fancy songs. That's kind of how it goes, folks. For those of you who might not be as familiar with Mrs. Worley, who didn't listen to her episode last week, which I certainly did many times. It was, she's my mentor. What can I say? I stood at her feet, as it were, and when things are feeling tough for me, that's who I go to. So yeah, I listened to that entire episode of hers. So the way it works, folks, is that you work on downtown. And you're probably wondering, well, okay, how long do you work on downtown? You work on downtown as long as it takes. Okay? I think the quickest anybody ever had to work on downtown was Mrs. Worley, probably. And it even took 2 years. Okay? 2 years of dedicated daily practice. It took me longer. It took me 5 years of dedicated daily practice on the song Downtown. But eventually I got there. I mastered it. My world came, breaking open professionally, vocally, spiritually. And I became internationally available. Okay. And at that point, you are authorized to work on fancy songs. So Linda, I want to make that clear. But I do recall the first fancy song I worked on after mastering Downtown, and that was Mersey Dotes. I don't know if any of you guys know this song, Mersey Dotes. It's a fancy song. It's a beautiful, very, very complex and very cool fancy song. It goes a little something like this. Mersey dotes and dozy dotes and little lambsy divey, a kiddly divey too, wouldn't you? Now, if you're listening to that now and you don't know this fancy song, I can tell you what you're thinking. You're thinking, that's a fancy song? That sounds like a lot of gobbledygook. Well, listen again. Mersey dotes and dozy dotes and little lambsy divey, a kiddly divey too, wouldn't you? And if you're sitting there thinking, I don't know what she's talking about, that makes perfect sense. She's talking about horses and lambs eating oats for breakfast, and a child goat eating ivy as well. This might be what you're thinking, but you're wrong. It's not that either. Okay? It's the thing about this fancy song. It turns everything on its head. You think you understand and you don't. Okay? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. Okay? Just look it up. All right, Linda, thank you for your question. And yes, it was good to return to downtown. I needed that. And for those of you who may have mastered Downtown and are on your journey to fancy songs, that's something to keep in mind, okay? You're going to need to come back to it eventually, many times. Not just one time to come back to it, many times. Okay, let's go to these other questions that we got. All right, this question is from Gregory Gent. Dear Diva, when being on stage and the center of attention stirs stage fright, what has actually helped you step forward and perform anyway? Okay, this is a good question. You're probably sitting at home thinking, Gregory Gent, I don't think the diva ever had that happen. Okay, she's so confident. She was born basically singing Frosty the Snowman. Before she could say a full sentence, she was singing full sentences. She mastered downtown. She doesn't have stage fright. Okay, I imagine that's what most of you are all thinking. But I will be vulnerable. I'm always vulnerable. I'm not vulnerable. It's just the truth happens to be that I'm very, very competent at what I do and that I'm internationally available to perform. But the vulnerable true answer is that yes, I have had stage fright. I think that every performer has. I think anybody that's saying they've never had it is probably lying to you because, you get up in front of enough people, it can get into your brain, like we're people who are meant to live in communities of what, 100 people max. So even performing in front of those 100 people, that's your entire world. Okay. And that, of course, would instigate stage fright. Your entire universe is 100 people. Okay. That's the max that you were meant to perform for, your entire universe of your community, your town, your village, okay? 100 people. But in today's world, when you're internationally available, you could be performing for thousands of people. And if it's televised, millions or billions of people, okay? By the way, I am available to do a televised performance for billions of people. I'm available for that. Um and again, the same stipulations hold fizzy waters of at least 3 varieties and peanut M&Ms. But anyway, I diverge here from the topic, which is stage fright. You end up singing in front of enough people, you're going to get a little worried, scared. You're going to get stage fright. Okay, so yes, Gregory, I have had stage fright, and what has helped me step forward and perform anyway? A couple of things. Okay, first of all, I think about my little baby self singing Frosty the Snowman. This was a little baby child who couldn't even say a sentence yet, and yet she didn't even question in her brain whether or not she could sing a sentence. She didn't question it, she just did it. Okay, so that same baby is who I am now. And that baby could do that, I can do it. So I remember that. And if that doesn't work, I have a breathing technique that I do, and it's I let all the air out. Let it come flooding back in, repeat. And you might be sitting at home thinking, why? That's dumb. That's not. It's because one of the very first things affected by stage fright, by nerves, by performance anxiety is the breath. Okay. That's not ideal for any person who has to do a thing uh, on a stage or on a court or on a television. It's not ideal for anybody doing that. But for singers, it's particularly difficult. And why is that? Well, that's because you need your breath to sing. Right? We're all on board with that. We all agree with that. We need your breath. But if your breath is being affected, I should have said that first. If your breath is being affected by your nerves, then it's going to impact the way that you sing. So what I've found, and this is a technique I've developed, is you let all the air out and then let it all come in, because a lot of times my breath ends up getting shallow. And you can't have that. If you want to sing these long, long phrases, Frosty the Snowman had a very happy hat with a corn pop pipe and a button nose and 2 eyes made out of coal. Frosty the Snowman. Hear how long that phrase was? I couldn't have done that without a breath, but when you get nervous, it starts to clench up on you, okay? And that's what you can't have when you're going to perform for 100 people, 1,000 people, 1 billion people. You can't have that as a singer. So that's my breathing technique. I take all the time I need to get all the air out. Let it flood in. Let it flood in. And that'll start to get the breath going back to the deepest it needs to be to do something like this. Mercy dotes and dozy dotes and little lambsy divey, kiddly divey too, wouldn't you? Oh, mercy dotes and dozy dotes and little lambsy divey, kiddly divey too, wouldn't you? I sang that entire song in one breath, guys. And I was a little nervous. I don't know how many people are listening to this. There could be a billion people. There could be a billion people listening to this. You could have people listening to this on every single continent. I don't know. That's the thing about appearing on a podcast. So that's what you need to be able to do something like that on a, you know, on a stage where you're nervous. Okay? And Gregory, I do have one other thing that I recommend, and that's that you have a little totem, okay? A totem can be, anything of meaning to you. It can be, it should have meaning to you for sure. But what mine is this, it's a little finger puppet that's a hippopotamus, okay? Now, this one's advanced. This is an advanced totem because, if you're performing for millions of people and it's not a podcast, well, some of you might be watching this, so it's still a little advanced for even a podcast, but you don't want people to see the hippopotamus or whatever it is because it'll distract them from what you're conveying vocally. And this is for you. It's not for them. Okay. So, I sometimes sing with, a fist and clenched in there is my hippopotamus, and that's my totem. And that's given me, look at the fury of this guy. Okay. Now, if you're not watching this, on Patreon, you're missing out because those people on Patreon are seeing a terrifying, but in a good way, terrifying hippopotamus mouth wide open, razor sharp bottom teeth, staring right down his gullet. Okay, so if I get scared, I've got my totem. I feel it in my fist, and I remember to be as ferocious as this hippopotamus. Okay, so one of those three techniques should help. Now, the first one, of course, you don't. If you don't have it, you don't have it. If you didn't start out life singing your first sentence, you might not have that natural, sort of confidence in yourself. And so you'll need some of these techniques. Okay, thank you, Gregory, for that excellent question. Okay, all right, next question. This is from Margaret. Margaret says, "Hello, Diva. I was wondering what happens when you let..." There's a bunch of questions in this. I'm going to read all of them, and then I'm going to go back and answer them all, okay? "Hello, Diva. I was wondering what happens when you let your hair down. In your performance contracts, do you have any unique demands? Special foods?" Okay, we've covered that. "Mrs. Miller albums. Absolutely no media references to King Louis XVI. Also, does downtown ever get stuck in your head like an earworm? How do you get it unstuck? Any help getting mine unstuck would be much appreciated." Okay, Margaret's got a lot of questions. I'm not surprised. I don't know how often it is people get to talk to an internationally available vocal artist, so just take advantage of it. Thanks for those questions, Margaret. I'm going to address each of them in turn here. What happens when you let your hair down? It doesn't happen very often. This is as close as I like to get. I've let this delicate tendril down. The two of them, really. Two delicate tendrils. And that's because if it starts to come down, then it's a cascade. And what I've learned as an internationally available vocal artist is that you don't want your hair too cascaded because oftentimes depending what you're performing, stage combat is something I trained in, okay? Studying opera, you study stage combat. That's hand-to-hand. That's flat swords from the medieval era. That's foils, okay? That's choking. Now, of course, not real choking. These are ways to show it from the stage. But they are still dangerous. The stage combat can be dangerous because you get in the heat of the moment. You're playing a character. There's 100 people, 1,000 people, 1 billion people watching. You can go a little too hard. So you want to be trained in stage combat. You want to be prepared to not harm yourself, not harm your scene partner. Okay, and hair being cascaded all around is something that could get caught in the foil, could get caught in the knife, could get caught in, you're doing a medieval piece, you've got these gauntlets, right? And sometimes they have things that your hair could get caught on. You don't need to be in the middle of a performance in front of 1 billion people in Asia, for example. Again, I haven't done that, but I'm available for it. getting your hair caught, not able to sing because you're trying to untangle yourself from your scene partner's gauntlet because you let too much of your hair down. Okay. So this is a maximum, and then I'll make sure that all the stage combat that happens will be on this side of my body. Okay. But I don't even like to do this. This is just because I'm not performing internationally or even locally today. In fact, I'm going to put this. If you're not watching on Patreon, you're missing out because you're seeing how the jam is made. All right, I put that part back up. It's actually jamming into there's a pin there and it's jamming into my skull. I don't like that. It's a delicate balance of getting it up without jamming the pins into your skull. Okay, next question from Margaret. In your performance contracts, do you have any unique demands, special foods? Yes, I need there to be a couple of fizzies in there. Some of you might be sitting at home wondering, is that fizzy water in here? No, this is a martini. I'm not singing today. Okay, it's a dirty martini. I'm not singing today. I don't have to be as careful as I am when I am performing. But yeah, multiple flavors of fizzy because you come out, you're going on stage. You want some kind of fizzy. What it does, the bubbles get your throat kind of alive. You probably noticed this. You take a swallow of a fizzy and there's stuff going on. It wakes the throat up. Okay, last thing you want going out on stage in front of an international audience is to have a sleepy throat. So, and then when I come off of it for a break, if it's in between acts or in between, sections of a recital, whatever it is, I want another flavor because your throat gets used to the first flavor. Got to wake it up again. Okay, so a couple fizzy waters and peanut M&Ms. Why? They've got protein. They've got peanut in them. Okay, why else? Because they're delicious. Little chocolate, little shell, okay? Also, they do taste different depending on the color. Not all of them are as good as others, but you don't remove colors from them because then you get used to just the good color. And this reminds me of a story from my childhood, and that's that I had a friend who had a Steinway piano, okay? I studied piano, of course, growing up, studying piano, having just like a kind of a dinky upright, which I didn't notice the difference, right? I was learning on this dinky upright. I have a friend, a colleague child of mine, who is studying on a Steinway piano as a child. Where is this kid going to go from? She started at the very, very tippy top. Your comparison is all going to be worse than that. Whereas if you start with a dinky upright, you play a Yamaha, you play a Steinway, you're going to be in a seventh heaven, which is how I feel every time I get to play a Steinway. Same with peanut M&Ms. You don't get rid of the ones that don't taste as good because if you only are eating the ones that taste the best, all the M&Ms are going to be worse than that experience. Okay, so that's a little note for you guys that remove M&Ms. Don't do that. Okay, Mrs. Miller albums. Oh, yeah. Okay, so Mrs. Worley was, yeah. So Mrs. Miller, in case you didn't watch Mrs. Worley's episode, which you really should go do right now, is one of the primary influences of Mrs. Worley, who is my mentor. So in a sense, you could say Mrs. Miller is my vocal grandmother. Mrs. Worley is my vocal mother. Mrs. Miller is my vocal grandmother. So of course, she means a lot to me. And I would call her a backstage totem. I kind of take around. Mrs. Worley gave this to me. This is her Mrs. Miller's Greatest Hits album. I take this to all of my performances and have it backstage. Just as a, it's like having your grandma back there to give you a little pep talk. She'll be like, kick all their butts. And I say, I will. And I do. So yeah, I don't need them to provide the Mrs. Miller album because I have one. Okay. Absolutely no media references to King Louis the 16th. That's funny. I think that's a joke pertaining to my hairstyle, which is Marie Antoinette-ish. And I do get jokes like that a lot. But not being French, I don't have a strict opposition to. Let's say I don't have a visceral problem with the Versailles Vichy dynasty that some French people might, and certainly Marie Antoinette would. I just happen to like the style, I think it takes a lot of work. You have to the platinum dye. And you can see some of my roots are coming in here. A little bit of roots coming in here and here. So it takes a lot of work and it's thick hair. I don't know if you can tell that, but that's all my hair and that's all very thick. So the platinum dyeing is quite an extensive process, but it's worth it to me. I like how it looks. I like how I look. I feel powerful, feel sexy. And but yeah, no, I don't have a visceral problem with Louis XVI, Louis XIV, any of those Louis. They had their issues for sure, and I don't condone the things they did. But yeah, it's don't get me started on our current president of this country, though, because I have a huge amount of problem, an enormous amount of problem, large problems. Yeah. Okay, let's get the rest of Margaret's question. Also, does downtown ever get stuck in your head like an earworm? Yes, it does. How do you get it unstuck? Okay, this is a good question, Margaret. This is one that I think a lot of people are wondering. Here's the secret to it. You don't want to get it unstuck. You want that in there, bouncing around. It's kind of like a slow release vitamin, right? You don't want your vitamin being flushed through your system immediately. You want it to be slow release, or any kind of medicine that has like a slow release. You want that in your system constantly. So the earworm is by design, okay? It's in your system, it's in your brain, it's in your ear holes, okay? And it's influencing your vocalizations always. So it can get annoying. I'm not saying that it's not ever annoying. But it's the price you pay. It's kind of like wishing that I could go out of the house and not be recognized for what I do. Okay? You get a degree of international availability, and that comes with a cost, and that's that people know who you are, right? So if I were to say, no, I don't want that, but I want the international availability, well, they go hand in hand. It's like two sides of the hand. I can't have this side of my hand without this side of my hand. I get rid of this side of my hand. I guess you might just have a bloody back of a hand, but that wouldn't be good for this side of the hand either, right? You gotta, if you want one side, that means you gotta have the other side. That's just how it is. So to benefit from the benefits of downtown, you need to have it running through your brain all the time. Okay? And you take the benefits, you take the downsides. The downsides are it's extremely annoying. So I'm sorry to not have a tip to get it unstuck for you, Margaret, but I would just very much not recommend getting it unstuck. Okay? The only tip is to have a fancy song going through your head, which might be tempting, but I imagine that will eventually get annoying too. And the fancy song's not going to do it for you the way that downtown won't be running through your head all the time. So when you've got it running in your head as an earworm and you're annoyed by it, remember, this is a slow release medicine inside of my brain right now. It's annoying. Medicine doesn't taste good, right? But it's crucial. It's crucial to your journey as a international artist if you've gotten to that status. Okay, I think that I have answered all of the questions, actually, that have been posed to me. Thank you for those questions. Thank you for watching. If you're still here and you're not a patron of Kara Morgan, you really ought to be, okay? Become a patron, a paying patron, ideally. And if you are, God bless you. God bless you. Thank you. And, okay, let's see. The last thing I want to say is thank you, Mrs. Worley. And thank you, Mrs. Miller. And then the very final thing I want to say is that I am available internationally. I'm available to Asia, to Africa, to South America, Antarctica, and North America. And have a feeling I'm missing one in there. But it's probably because I've been to it many times. Okay, thank you so much. Signing off. You guys have a great day, and that's, yeah. Okay, goodbye.